The film begins by introducing Dylan, a man who is constantly occupied with his job, leaving him little time to spend with his girlfriend. This causes friction in their relationship, and one day, they plan to go to the movies. Unfortunately, Dylan arrives late and his girlfriend, frustrated, ends their relationship, stating that he never has time for her and that their relationship is pointless. Meanwhile, we meet Jamie, a woman also deeply engrossed in her work, leaving her unable to connect with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend eventually breaks up with her, expressing his frustration that she is never emotionally available. Jamie tries to explain that her work keeps her busy, but she remains hopeful that her Prince Charming will eventually find her. We learn that Jamie works as an executive recruiter for a top job agency in New York City. Dylan, who is originally from Los Angeles, receives a job offer in New York. Jamie is tasked with recruiting Dylan for an interview with GQ magazine, hoping to get him to work in the city. When Dylan arrives in New York, Jamie picks him up from the airport and tries to convince him that this opportunity is a great one. However, Dylan isn't particularly excited about living in New York, as he loves Los Angeles. They head to the company where Dylan's interview is scheduled. After the interview, Jamie informs him that he has been offered the job at GQ. Initially, Dylan is hesitant to accept the offer, as it would mean relocating from Los Angeles to New York. To persuade him, Jamie spends the evening showing Dylan around the city, trying to sell him on both the job and New York. They visit various places, and at one point, Jamie takes him to a high rooftop, sharing that she often goes there when she's upset because she loves the view. Dylan appreciates the view as well, and they talk about his father, who was also a successful writer. Jamie already knows about his father and asks how he would feel about Dylan moving to New York. Dylan responds that his father is always supportive of his decisions. Later, Jamie takes Dylan to Times Square.
Oh, you're showing me Times Square! This is not touristy at all!
Where they see thousands of people dancing to a pop tune. Dylan is captivated by the scene and joins in the dancing. This experience convinces him to move to New York.
You sold me!
Really?
I'll take the job.
Oh my god!
The next day, Jamie presents Dylan with a contract to sign, which will also secure her commission for recruiting him. As Dylan starts his new job, he becomes friends with a colleague named Tommy. During their conversations, Jamie explains that the contract is for a year, but Dylan can leave if he wishes. She advises against leaving, though. Dylan then asks Jamie if she would like to have lunch with him. Jamie initially thinks he's asking her on a date and points out that she's his only friend in New York, so dating might make things awkward. However, Dylan clarifies that he just wants to hang out as friends, and they go to a restaurant together. As they talk, the conversation shifts to their exes, and they candidly share what their exes used to say about them. Their honesty strengthens their bond. Jamie later invites Dylan to a party she's hosting, suggesting he might make more friends there. Dylan attends the party and enjoys himself, getting along with everyone. As time passes, Dylan and Jamie begin meeting regularly, enjoying each other's company. One evening, Dylan visits Jamie to watch a movie. Jamie reveals her love for romantic films, while Dylan expresses his belief that they all follow the same formula: people struggling to maintain relationships. He argues that love shouldn't be so complicated, and Jamie agrees. She then suggests that fulfilling physical needs shouldn't be so complicated either, comparing it to playing tennis. Dylan likes the way she thinks and proposes that they engage in a purely physical relationship without emotions, jealousy, or commitment. Jamie initially points out that they aren't even attracted to each other that way, but after taking a test, they discover they are indeed attracted to one another. They set some ground rules and decide to get intimate without entering into a traditional relationship. They agree to remain good friends and avoid any complications. Days pass after they spend their first night together. However, the situation becomes slightly awkward, prompting Jamie to visit Dylan at his office to talk about it. She insists that there shouldn't be any awkwardness between them if they want to maintain their arrangement. They decide not to continue their physical relationship, fearing it might ruin their friendship. But later that night, when they're hanging out, they give in to their attraction and end up in another passionate encounter. One day, while they're together, Jamie's mother unexpectedly walks in on them. She expresses her happiness that Jamie has found a nice guy, but Jamie explains their arrangement to her mother, who surprisingly approves. Jamie's mother reveals that she also dislikes commitment and has never settled for one man since her divorce. Later, Dylan confides in Tommy about his arrangement with Jamie. Tommy warns him that this kind of arrangement rarely works because men and women often view things differently. Despite Tommy's warning, Dylan and Jamie continue their physical relationship. However, as time goes by, Jamie starts to miss the traditional aspects of dating and expresses a desire to go on a date. She shares this with Dylan. Jamie confides in Dylan that she might be ready for a serious relationship now. Understanding this, Dylan offers to end their arrangement if that's what she wants. They then visit a garden, where Dylan spots a beautiful woman standing alone. He jokes to Jamie that he might try dating her, and Jamie encourages him to approach the woman. However, when he does, she reveals that she is married with kids. Dylan returns to Jamie, who laughs at the situation. Jamie then decides to approach a guy herself. She strikes up a conversation with him and discovers that he's a doctor. Excited, Jamie agrees to go on a date with him. Later that night, Jamie and the doctor, named Parker, enjoy each other's company during their date. Parker suggests they go back to her place since it's closer, but Jamie explains her rule of not bringing a guy home until the 5th date. During their conversation, Jamie mentions that she always dreams of a hero, her Prince Charming, who will come and save her from the world. Jamie and Parker start dating regularly, while Dylan, now without Jamie, feels lonely and dissatisfied with his attempts to date other women. He realizes he misses Jamie's company. On the 5th date, Jamie and Parker end up having a romantic night at her place. The next morning, Jamie goes out to buy donuts while Parker is still in bed. However, when she returns, she sees Parker trying to leave without saying anything. Confronting him, Jamie quickly realizes that he got what he wanted and now wants to disappear. She tells him to leave, and Parker admits he's not the Prince Charming she desires. They break up right there, leaving Jamie upset. That evening, Jamie meets up with Dylan and shares what happened. Dylan comforts her, telling her to forget Parker because he's not worth her time. Later, Dylan surprises Jamie by gifting her a painting she had previously admired, which cheers her up. When Jamie returns home, she finds a note from her mother, explaining that she will be away for the next few days. Jamie tells Dylan about her mother's absence, and Dylan invites her to stay at his place, saying she'll get bored alone at home. They fly to Los Angeles, where Jamie meets Dylan's parents and his sister Annie. Both Annie and Dylan's father take an immediate liking to Jamie. However, it's revealed that Dylan's father is suffering from a mental illness, causing him to forget basic things and sometimes do embarrassing stuff, like forgetting to wear pants. One night, when Jamie is in her room, Dylan enters wearing only his robe, hinting that he wants to be intimate with her. However, Jamie asks him to keep his robe on, and instead, they sit together, talking and enjoying each other's company. They realize they haven't had a peaceful conversation like this in a long time. As they continue talking, they grow closer, eventually leading to them making out. Later that night, Dylan leaves Jamie's room, only to be spotted by his sister, who starts suspecting something. The next evening, the whole family has dinner together, but Dylan is again embarrassed by his father's actions. The following day, Dylan takes Jamie out to explore the city, and they sit on the huge Hollywood sign. Though initially scared, Dylan relaxes as Jamie convinces him to stay. She then tells him that he shouldn't be embarrassed by his father, explaining that what others think doesn't matter, his father is his dad, and Dylan should look at him with pride. Back at home, Annie talks to Dylan about Jamie. She asks him what's going on between them, adding that she's noticed how perfect they are for each other. Dylan insists they're just friends and mentions that Jamie is too damaged to be in a relationship. Unbeknownst to Dylan, Jamie overhears this conversation and, feeling hurt, decides to leave. She returns to New York without telling Dylan. Dylan follows her to New York a few days later and tries to reach out to her, but Jamie keeps ignoring him. He eventually confronts her, asking why she's been avoiding him. Jamie reveals that she overheard his conversation with Annie and no longer wants to maintain any kind of friendship with him. Shortly after, Jamie discovers that Dylan might be leaving his job at GQ for another position, which would affect her commission. She confronts Dylan, and this leads to another argument. Both of them begin to reflect on their feelings for each other. Jamie spends time with her mother, while Dylan discusses the situation with his sister over the phone. Annie informs Dylan that their father, who is in the early stages of Alzheimer's, will be flying to New York and needs to be picked up at the airport. At the airport, Dylan and his father have a meal together. In a moment of confusion caused by Alzheimer's, Dylan's father mistakenly identifies a passerby as a woman from his past. When Dylan asks about her, his father, regaining his clarity, reveals that she was a woman he met in the Navy, a woman he deeply loved but regrets letting go. Determined to make things right, Dylan contacts Jamie's mother to set up an excuse for Jamie to be at Grand Central Station. There, Dylan surprises her with a flash mob dancing to the songs Jump and Closing Time. He confesses his feelings to Jamie, and they share a passionate kiss.